Hi everyone, I'm Joe. Today it's time for me to do a book review of The Amazing Maurice and His Educated Rodents, written by Terry Pratchett. First of all, this is a fantasy novel. It is the 28th novel set within Terry Pratchett's Discord, of which obviously I am a very big fan, same as many other people, and it was first published in 2001. So first of all, this is actually an officially numbered part of the overall Discord series. Some people, from what I can tell online, don't obviously consider it to be the case, but actually originally it definitely was, and I still consider it to be that case, hence why I'm reviewing it as part of my ongoing Discord review series. So what is The Amazing Maurice? First of all, The Amazing Maurice himself is actually the cat on the front of the book. Frankly, this is a Pied Piper style tale, Grimm's fairy tale, but Terry Pratchett style, with the humour and the sense of fun that you would expect from Terry Pratchett, quite simply. So, Maurice and the Educated Rodents, which is a bunch of rats, as you would expect, are wild animals that living, or at least used to live, in the area surrounding Unseen University. Unseen University is the big magic university within the city of Morpurg, and Morpurg is essentially the Discord version of London, England. And being around that much magic for so long, basically it's essentially mutated both Maurice and the Educated Rodents, the rats, and essentially they can now speak actual human languages, and indeed they can think, and they are far more intelligent than normal cat or normal rats. So this gives rise to a few interesting abilities, like for instance when they, due to Maurice, find a wandering orphan who they, and indeed you don't as a reader do not know his name, is referred to as the boy. With the boy, they essentially are doing a Pied Piper trick, essentially, where they're going from town to town. The boy is ridding the town of the sudden plague of rats that appeared in the last few weeks, and obviously the rats, well, they do their thing, and they are the plague of rats. And this is going well, but for the record, they are not the Pied Piper, and indeed the boy is not the Pied Piper. The Pied Piper exists in the world, and indeed Maurice and the other characters do indeed reference the Pied Piper. Basically, they haven't got the rights to use the Pied Piper franchise, pretty much, sarcastically. And so they are just merely doing something similar to this. And this is going quite well. They're wandering from town to town, they are making reasonable amount of money to live off, and everything's going well. However, one day they wander into a town. It looks a promising town, with a reasonable sort of little bit of a sewage system that they can infest, and obviously the houses are the right sort of houses that the rats can infest and be the plague of rats in. So it looks good and promising. So they start work. However, things don't go the way they think they do, because this town has a rather dark secret. As you would expect, there has to be the twist, and that is the twist, frankly. Well, the first twist. Anyway, and overall, things start spiraling outwards in a rather chaotic fashion, because I don't want to say too much, because at that point, things start spiraling outwards in a way that I didn't expect, and frankly I think it's actually quite hard to predict. But it's really interesting and really fun. Maurice and the boy and the rats meet another character, a young girl, who is I think it is the great niece, or the niece or something like that, of not the brothers Grimm, but the sisters Grimm. So Terry Pratchett is indeed sarcastically referencing the brothers Grimm in his own way, with making them into sisters Grimm and making them into storytellers, or as certain characters think of them, as massive liars. Because the girl has a reputation for telling stories, or as many people like to think of her as you can guess what I'm going to say next, yes, everybody thinks that she's a massive liar, and she basically can't tell the truth because she doesn't even understand the truth. But she does know how to tell a story though. It's basically in her blood and in her genetics. So together she hooks up with their little group of the boy, the rats and Maurice, and things start going in a strange and disturbingly dark fashion. This is Discord, it's got the lightness to it, but it's also definitely got what Tea Pratchett is hoping for with this. It's got that dark element that Grimm's fairy tales are expected to have as well. You've got some dark elements that are twisted, and you actually think, well, our character's actually going to genuinely die, because it does look as though in the course of the book characters are going to get horribly killed, and things are not going to turn out well. And to be honest, you can't actually predict whether, I mean, I'm not going to say whether this does turn out well, but you can't predict that either though with it, because this is based on a Grimm's. This is Discord as well, which you would normally expect to be cheerful and happy, but Tea Pratchett doing something alternative with this. So you can't, pretty much all the normal sort of rules, all the normal bets you would say on a Tea Pratchett book are to a large degree. So this is a very curious read, let's say, and one that I really did appreciate and I greatly enjoyed reading about. And one of the major things that pushes this book into an interesting story is the characters, as I've said. The boy, although you do, I think you briefly do have an idea what his name might be, but it's almost completely irrelevant. He's just the boy, that's all you need to know. He's a interesting character because he's an orphan, but his education is obviously, you know, extremely limited. I mean, literally he's been taught his way in the world by a talking cat and some rats. So he's considered by Maurice to be an idiot, frankly. And Maurice himself considers himself to be, you know, refined and cultured and, you know, educated, as the case may be. And, you know, the rats, they are very different from normal rats. They know what normal rats should be, in terms of, you know, how normal rats just scavenge and forage and often fight amongst themselves, but they're not. So some of them almost want to be that way, but they know they can't be because it's just not in them now. They are actively intelligent, they can talk, discuss and, you know, reason far more. So the rats are in a bit of a strange place as well, because they're kind of outcast from the rest of you know, the species, because they're no longer, you know, this animal that just is known for basically surviving in almost any conditions, you know, on anything they can find, and sort of scavengers. They're now more than that, and they're not sure how to handle it, which is an interesting situation. And the other characters that support them, I don't want to say too many names because it might give away certain plot points, also, let's say, fits in with the world well, and fits in with the characters that I've already said extremely well too. Now, as far as world building goes in this book, it has the usual Tea Pratchett style to it, and indeed the usual Tea Pratchett way of creating a world and making it feel fairly real. This is a small town away from walk away from anywhere else in any other book. In fact, it's just a fairly random town, so to speak, that has no significance to any other Discord books or character lines that he writes about. As a result, he can do things a little bit differently with this town and indeed this environment, but he's still got the Discord feel. I mean, it's not like he's reinventing everything here. It might have a different feel to it, and it might be harder to predict than normal, as I mentioned, but it definitely is Tea Pratchett, and it is this world, just at a slightly stranger angle, which even Tea Pratchett says to me, because Tea Pratchett sees the world and then he twists it at a slightly off angle. With this, he's just twisting it a second time and looking at it from a slightly more peculiar angle than normal, which is really interesting to see. And that world building with this strange town where people are acting in a certain way really adds to the overall book, and I think really adds to the story, which makes it quite impressive. So as far as ideas and themes of this book is concerned, first of all, this is obviously a kind of a fairy tale retelling of a sort, but of course this is a fairy tale retelling with Terry Pratchett as the storyteller. So nothing is quite as you predict, because as I said, he turns things at a slightly strange angle. So you think they're going to go one way, or you think maybe, oh yes, this is a classic fairy tale idea, therefore he'll twist it around and go at it from the other angle. He doesn't. He never just twists it completely around. He'll almost go straight on, but not quite. So you never quite know what to predict. As a result, this may be based on, obviously, the classic story of, the rat catcher in the town and everything else with the Pied Piper, but it's not that. It's actually far more than that, and personally far more interesting than that, because the rats themselves are an important part, because their idea on society and within themselves, but on also human society, because they are intelligent, they are viewing human society when they were living in Ankh-Morpork, obviously, as essentially this world London. They saw what humans were capable of doing, what humans were capable of living like and producing in life, and they are not stupid, as I said. They would almost like this themselves, but they are also aware of what they are and what they are capable of. So they know they can't just pretend to be human. I mean, they are rats, they are aware of it. So it's a difficult challenge for them, because they want to be more than they are, and that is one of the things that this book discusses. Being people's desire to be more than they were given at birth. I mean, and it is something that I believe in. What you are brought up with is not necessarily what you can achieve in a later life. You might not have a good upbringing, but if you have the right mindset and you think about things the right way, you can achieve far more than that. And you can sort of bypass class, you can bypass most things, frankly, if the conditions are right. Of course, a lot of people don't manage it, but some people do, rarely and thankfully. And this is asking those sort of questions about society, and and indeed brings up class, which you would think, how can a book about essentially the Pied Piper and rats bring up class? But this is Terry Pratchett. He brings up questions about things you wouldn't expect in a really interesting and meaningful way, situations that you'd think would probably be impossible, frankly. And society with rats, no, but actually Terry Pratchett manages it, and he manages it well. There are many other questions that he brings up in this. I mean, he doesn't just go for that question, but I'm not going to say too many more of them, because I think it's interesting to find a few of them yourself as the reader. But the feel of it and the atmosphere as well, which I'm going to just briefly mention now, is fantastic. You get the true idea of this town being a slightly strange, isolated town in the middle of nowhere. They go there, they think that they're like the first, sort of Pied Piper type group to show up, and they realise that there's actually something even darker in the town and more weird in the town than they are. I mean, after all, it's literally a talking cat, talking rats, and a boy pretending to be a plague of rats, and yet they're not the strangest things in the area. So that bit spoiled as well, same as the reader. So overall, in summary, I would say this is a very well written book, a very strange book, although it's Terry Pratchett, so that's perfectly normal, and one that I think is well worth reading, because all the characters, and especially Maurice, I haven't actually mentioned Maurice too much. Maurice's character that's developed the most in the book, which is why I've mentioned him, because as the title character, the amazing Maurice, he's developed well. He's got an interesting personality. He's aware he's a cat, and he wants to be more, but he also is aware that he can't be more. So again, it's that sort of desire for more than you are, more than you can be, which is an interesting one. And Maurice is a very curious character, considering he's a cat as well. It's actually quite rather impressive. Overall, I would highly recommend this book if you are a Discworld fan. Obviously, I mean, I don't really need to say that if you're a Discworld fan. And I would probably say you could easily read this if you like fairy tale retellings as well. And indeed, you could read this separately because this doesn't use other previously known characters. So this is a full standalone. One of the few that you truly don't need any prior knowledge to any Discworld novel whatsoever, or even the world. Because this doesn't mention overall the Discworld as a concept. You know, the idea of a disc resting on the backs of 4 giant elephants which stand on the back of a giant turtle. That almost doesn't mention it really. It's like the Discworld just happens to be the world they're on. That's it. It's kind of irrelevant, the rest of it is. And it's an interesting time tip, actually doesn't mention that and makes it fully independent, and personally a very interesting read overall. And with that is it for my review of The Amazing Maurice and His Educated Rodents. If you have read this or you would like to, then please leave a comment, or if you'd like more information on anything about this, then please, you know, feel free to ask. I might not be able to answer, of course, because, you know, I don't know anything about the book. I mean, I've only read it through once or twice myself in the past. And I will leave a link to this book in the description box below, as well as all my social media links. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.